This video discusses allegations and arguments contained in a federal court filing. These are not new charges and not final sentencing decisions. Before we get into the sentencing memorandum filed by the USA, please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Let's get into it. Today we're going over a sentencing memorandum filed by federal prosecutors in the case against Zihirr Mitchell, also publicly known as Bricc Baby. This filing is important because it tells us what the government is asking the judge to do at sentencing and why. This document is not an indictment and not a trial brief. A sentencing memorandum is filed after a guilty plea or conviction. Here, prosecutors are explaining to the judge what the defendant has admitted to, how the sentencing guidelines apply, and the exact sentencing the government is requesting. In this case, the government is asking for 92 months in federal prison. That's 7 years and 8 months, followed by 3 years of supervised release. According to the filing, the defendant has pleaded guilty to the multiple offenses including being a felon in possession of firearms and ammunition, unlawfully possessing ammunition used during a parking lot shooting in 2022, possessing additional firearms and ammunition seized from his home in 2023, and filing a fraudulent FEMA disaster relief application tied to the January 2025 fires. Prosecutors emphasized that the defendant was legally prohibited from possessing any firearms or ammunition at all based on prior felony conviction, regardless of how or why they were used. Federal sentencing uses the U.S. sentencing guidelines, which are largely math-driven. In this filing, probation calculated, and prosecutors agree that the total offense level is 23. The defendant is in criminal history category 6, the highest possible. That produces a guideline range of 92 to 115 months. The government is asking for the low end, 92 months, but still argues that anything less would fail to protect the public or promote respect for the law. Prosecutors lay out several reasons they believe a lengthy prison sentence is justified. Multiple firearm possessions across different years, allegations that firearms were pointed at others, including family members, a shooting incident involving 3 fired rounds, possession of a firearm near a child, statement captures on wiretaps referencing prior violence, and a lengthy criminal history involving probation violations, robbery, and prior firearm offenses. They also point to the disaster fraud, emphasizing that the defendant's false FEMA application directly prevented the real homeowner from receiving disaster assistance. An important point here is that this is just a recommendation, not a final decision. The judge is not required to follow the government's request, but it does carry weight, especially when it aligns with the probation office and the sentencing guidelines. Realistically, this filing signals that the government believes the case warrants a substantial prison sentence, and the defendant's public profile and past leniency did not deter continued criminal conduct. We'll see what the court ultimately decides at sentencing. As more filings, objections, or defense responses come in, we'll break down those too, document by document. Thanks for watching.